Alright, hey, welcome to my little fishing channel. We surf fish a lot here, me and my boys. If you ever looked at any of our videos, or you're even one of our subscribers, you see we surf fish a lot, and we surf fish way more than we post videos, I promise you that. And while we're down there during the summer most of the time, but in the fall, spring and winter, we fish all year round as long as the weather let it happen. Here in Northeast Florida, I get asked all the time by beachgoers, people who are new to the area, or maybe it's a father or a mom or an uncle or grandpa that want to take their kids to the beach and go fishing, you know, what I would recommend. And so I always tell them, and this is probably a little bit against some of the other recommendations other people say. A lot of people like smaller rods for kids, 7 foot, 7.5, maybe even 8 foot rods to surf fish. But I think it puts everybody at a huge disadvantage when it comes to surf fishing. Those rods, a lot of times, if it's a little bit rough, can't reach the fish. Now, I'm not talking casting way out to the outer sandbar, but just to the drop-off, just out where the breakers start on the shore break. I see people, they wade out to chest-deep water to try to get out there while I'm standing in ankle-deep, maybe knee-deep at most water, and can still throw it past them. Plus, if you're not that familiar with a spin fishing setup and a rod, it's going to make it easier for you to throw. To be honest with you, it's going to give you a lot more leverage if you're new to this kind of fishing. So anyhow, what I always tell them is go with a 10 to 11 foot surf rod. And I like rods, and I'm going to put this really close to the camera. Hopefully it'll come out, don't know. This is a rod that's set up for 15 to 30 pound monofilament. I like monofilament better than braid. You can use braid if you want, but it's easier on the fingers and it's easier to tie knots with monofilament. And it's kind of what I've been using all my life. I've been surf fishing all my life. I'm in my 50s and I grew up here on the beach, so it's kind of what I'm used to. It may not be the best for you, but it works really well for little kids because the braid can get their finger. So anyhow, I just use a 2-piece rod and reel, stick it together, and I like to attach a 6000 to 6500 series reel. This is an old pin I've had for 30 years. I have about 4 or 5 of them that are anywhere 20 to 30 plus years old that I use very frequently. They've lasted really well. I'm not obligated to any reel brand or any rod brand. All 4 of my rods that I use for surf fishing are completely different, and if you look at my reels, they're completely different too for the most part. But anyhow, I think a 6000, 6500 style reel with 15 to 17 pound monofilament, it's going to catch anything you want out of the surf, anywhere from large redfish to small whiting to catfish or anything like that. Put on a 10 foot to 11 foot surf rod is going to be perfect for you to take little kids fishing. It's not too big. You can put it in a rod holder, and because it has a short butt, especially if you use a smaller rod holder, the smaller kids can reel with it while it's sitting in the rod holder. You can just help them out a little bit. I like the small grip too on here for their little hands, and then as the kids get bigger, they're big enough to take it out and they can still reel it. If you go bigger than this, then you end up with a really long rod butt, and it can be pretty cumbersome even for adults. So that's what I like to use. I think it works really good. It's what I've been using with my kids since they could walk and stand next to a rod holder on the beach, and I've never had a problem with it. The one thing I will say is kids like to dig in the mud till you get a bite and you yell at them to come reel it in. Make sure, it's the rule I have with my kids, can't touch a reel until you rinse your hands off in the surf. So they got to do that first, and then never ever ever let your reel, I don't care how good it is as far as it's waterproof or anything, sit in the sand. Got to keep them in the rod holders, keep them up out of the water too. So that's it for this. Hopefully that'll help somebody out with what they want to pick to go surf fishing. And in a later video or two, I will show you what kind of rigs work well for surf fishing, especially for kids, and what kind of baits work well. At least here in Northeast Florida, I think it's pretty much the same thing on the east coast of Florida, from South Florida all the way up, probably up through Virginia. What kind of equipment works really well, what kind of bait works well. So if you live on the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, you probably don't need a 10, 11 foot. Their surf isn't anywhere near as big as what we have here, and probably don't deal with as much current as the rules we do over here. But if you were to do this setup here, you would have a fairly inexpensive way to take your kids, or whatever kids you want to take fishing, and catch fish. You will look awesome to them when you're catching catfish, stingrays, sharks are huge, and even just little whiting and little fish like that. So take my word for it, for a guy who's raising a couple of kids on the beach and who grew up on the beach himself, what's easy to use for kids. Take it for what it's worth. If you got any questions, want to make any comments, I don't care. You can tell me I'm completely wrong and you do something better. I don't care. But anyhow, hopefully this will help somebody as you're cruising through YouTube and wander across this video. So anyhow, thanks for watching.